Hello everyone, this is Key here, coming out with a commentary for the first time on YouTube, or review I guess you could say, on actually Scape, a new BR that just came out this past week that's on technical testing until I believe the 5th of July. And well, just like anything else, there's pros and cons. And I don't exactly know how I feel about it, as in, is it good or is it bad? Like, it's a game that I can play for, I guess, a few hours and probably move on to another game. You know, like play it a few hours here and there. But I definitely couldn't sit there and play this game all day, every day, I guess you could say. I do have to give it up for Ubisoft, though, for coming out with a BR that's pretty unique compared to these other BRs that have been out. Because there's some that's been coming out, like newer BRs, but there really isn't too much different about it compared to the ones that we've already been playing, if you're a fan of BRs. Scape just feels a lot different. It doesn't really feel like anything you've played before. Could be a lot of improvement to the game, you know. This is still technical testing, so I don't really know how much they're going to change about the game, but I'm sure they could work on it and make it a lot better. I could say the movement is pretty darn good in this game. Everyone's always moving all the time. There's not so much camping. Kind of like Warzone. I feel like that gets campy sometimes, especially with all the buildings and whatnot. Here in Scape, yeah, there are a lot of buildings, but it feels like everyone's mainly moving around all the time, using all their abilities. No one's really in buildings too much. It's really fast-paced. It's almost too fast-paced, but not at the same time, because of these two reasons. The time to kill and the abilities, the cooldowns are just way too short. The time to kill, on the other hand, is way too long in my opinion. There's just something about this game where when you die, it just doesn't really feel like you've lost too much. Or, you know, like when you lose, you don't really feel frustrated or anything. It's just like, oh, that's alright, I guess. Move on to the next one. It feels too much like TDM, because it's hard to get frustrated like that. It's just a lot of shooting, dying, killing. There's really not too much strategy to it or anything that I think a BR should be like. You know, a bit strategic. You should be punished if you made some sort of mistake. In Scape, it doesn't really feel like it, you know? There's really no consequence if you're just out in the open with maybe 10 other people shooting at you. You can just get away really easily. If you die, you die. Oh well, your team will probably get you back in no time, because there is no timer when after you die to like respawn you. Really, kind of like in Fortnite or Apex, that is, when you have to grab someone's card by a certain time, otherwise they're just gone forever. In Scape, you can basically die in the beginning of the game and probably get revived in the last circle if there was a spot for you to come back to. So basically how it works is when you die, you kind of go into like this, I guess you could say ghost form, or whatever you want to put it as. But you can still run around, watch your teammate fight, watch other people fight, run around anywhere really. You're not really bound, just anywhere in the map. And you have to find these orange triangles on the ground, and you can actually press the interact button on it and try to get a respawn. So your teammates will see, oh, my teammate's trying to respawn here, so all you have to do is walk up to it and press the interact button. It takes like, I think, less than 3 seconds. It's really fast, and honestly, with the time to kill, even if you had someone shooting you in the back, you could get the revive off without dying. Especially if you had the ability, the armor one, you could just stand there and revive and no problem, because you actually, I'm pretty sure it's just negating the damage in total when you're using the armor. In Scape, you can also double jump, which is pretty darn cool. You can climb basically anything. First load into a game, your team and yourself is spawned on top of this little platform with a couple other teams, and you can actually, it's sort of like a parkour little platform that you can just have fun on while you're waiting for the game to start, which I think is pretty neat, you know, just to kill a little bit of time. But yeah, like I said before, the time to kill, I think, is way too long. The ability cooldowns are way too short, and it just makes it so much harder to kill people. Getting headshots is almost not worth it in this game unless you're sniping and you have it maxed out and you just get one-hit headshot. But other than that, the game doesn't reward you too much for having precise aim, so I'd just go for body shots, in my opinion. It's not that much of a difference in headshots compared to body shots. Now, the cooldowns for abilities, the most used abilities, I would say, is probably the Grand Slam, the Teleport, Heal, Wall. I've seen mine used here and there. Reveal, not so often, because I think it's a little bit too useless. Reveal could actually use a buff. So how Reveal works is that you only throw the ability the direction you're looking in, so it just goes forward just a little bit. It's like a little square that launches forward to Reveal. And it doesn't go that far at all. I think a good way to buff the Reveal, we could probably change it to a small AoE ability, and it wouldn't necessarily, like, you know, track the person that you reveal. It would just show their last known location, kind of like Bloodhounds in Apex. That'd be really nice. But the AoE, of course, the radius would be a lot smaller than Bloodhounds. Bloodhounds is really big, and considering the cooldowns in this game, it's way too short, and that would be too OP then. There's another cool feature in this game called fusing. So I'm sure before in other BRs you would hate to find dupes of this item. You're like, oh, I already have that. Well, in this game, if you find a dupe of the item that you already have, you can actually fuse it together and basically upgrade the item or gun that you already have. So example, for the minigun, I think you can upgrade it around 5 times, and each time you upgrade it or fuse it into another minigun, it actually increases the magazine and the damage it does, which is pretty darn OP, I think, because the minigun has way too much in its mag, and there's really only 2 other guns other than the minigun that's fully automatic, and that's the Ripper, which is an AR, and a D-Tap, which is, people like to call it the aimbot pistol, because in this sense, the crosshair, it's basically a box, and if you shoot a person that's anywhere within the box, the bullets will basically travel to hit the person's chest, no matter where you're aiming at, as long as the person is somewhere in the box, and it's pretty darn big. I would say 1/9 of your screen. So actually, the minigun, you can fuse it 4 times, and the max amount of bullets it has in its mag is 270, which is pretty insane. Considering the D-Tap max upgrade, the mag is only 23, but of course that's a pistol. And then there's the Ripper, which is the AR, only holds 36 at max. So I don't really think the minigun is too fit in this game, considering all the other guns. I feel needs a little bit more skill to kill someone. With the minigun, you can just basically hold down the trigger forever while people are reloading and such, because the time to kill is so long that you're probably going to have to reload a few times before you kill if you're trying to do it by yourself. Now the TP I think is pretty balanced. It's the base cooldown is 12 seconds and the max is 7 seconds. That's when you max out the ability, the max fusion. You don't really teleport too far. That's a fair cooldown, in my opinion. Maybe a tad longer. Maybe the base should start out at like 15 seconds or so. But if not, I think the teleport is pretty good how it is. The heal, on the other hand, it starts out at 10 seconds, and the max upgraded one is 5 seconds. And basically you throw down an AoE heal. It's a little ring and it stays there, I think 15 seconds, and it heals super duper fast too. So if you're in a gunfight, you can just throw down the ring of the healing around you and your teammates and just keep shooting and just stand in the ring. The cooldown is low enough that you can just keep throwing it down, but there's really no need to, since it lasts for 15 seconds, you know? So by the time that's over, you're well ready for another throwdown of the heal. The mine I've seen used here and there, and the base cooldown is 10 seconds with the maxed fusion to be 5 seconds. So how the mine works is you put down the mine, and the radius I think is a little bit bigger than the heal AoE radius. And so if someone just walks in within the radius, the mine ends up following them, tracking them, and of course eventually blowing up when it reaches the target. But you can easily just shoot it down and prevent it from blowing it up on top of you. There is also the wall that I think is a huge issue. The cooldown at the base is 10 seconds. The max fused wall, the cooldown is 5 seconds. It's a fairly huge wall, in my opinion, and when you melee it, it's really not that bad. If you melee it 5 times, it'll break, but by the time you break it, the person already has like 2 more walls up, probably. When you're meleeing the wall, you deal 50 damage per hit, but when you're meleeing players, it's only 20 damage. It takes around 70 bullets to take down the wall, just one wall, with a minigun, which is pretty insane considering the fact that if the person has the max wall, they probably have a lot more walls up to and probably have gotten away by then. So I don't know, I think they should just fix the fact that you can only place one wall at a time, because I know some people have done this. They just keep walling up until they're all the way up in the sky and they're at the limit. The wall takes 250 damage to take down, but the slam, the grand slam, one hits it. The audio in Hyperscape is not the most amazing thing ever. Honestly, the whole time when I'm playing the game, it all just sounds confusing. It all just sounds like little water guns are being shot everywhere. You can't really hear footsteps at all if people are shooting. If no one's really shooting, they're pretty clear, the footsteps are, but you can't really tell where they're coming from, which for a BR isn't the best thing ever. The sound quality of when you shoot guns as well is pretty horrible. It's pretty underwhelming when you shoot a sniper or a shotgun or a minigun and it just sounds like you're shooting little pellets. I think it really takes away from the game a lot. I don't really feel any form of excitement when I kill people. That causes me personally to not really enjoy the game that much, or enjoy a game that much, if I can't really be excited when I do well or perform well. There's this rocket launcher type thing called the Skybreaker. The farther it travels, the bigger the explosion is and the more it does. Well, you can basically, the base damage I think is around 30 damage. If you just shoot it at your feet and there's people around you, you'll do 30 damage. I think a way to kind of punish players from doing that is that you should be able to do self-damage or deal self-damage to yourself if you do that. It's a bit too OP in my opinion, in the fact that you can just run into a room, do 30 damage to everyone in that room if you just shoot a plasma launcher to your feet. There's also another cool feature in this game where you can grab this crown when it's the end circle, and if you and your team survive for 45 seconds, you actually win the game automatically. Even if there's still players alive, you just win. There is a downside to picking up the crown though. Anyone in the game can see your location. I believe the timer for holding the crown down is a little bit too short. It's 45 seconds. The time to kill in this game is way too long, considering how many abilities you can be using and how short the cooldown is. It's extremely hard to kill someone when they have the crown and stop them from winning. In my opinion, a good fix for the crown feature is that when you're holding the crown, the person who's holding the crown shouldn't be able to use abilities, because there's actually this trend going on right now where people grab the crown and them and their team just build walls on top of each other and go up to the sky limit and just sit there. Even if someone breaks the bottom layer of the walls don't collapse, they just float. So there's really not too much you can do to stop them or to counter it, which is very unfortunate. The timer is way too fast. Another really unique thing about Hyperscape is that the way the quote-unquote zone closes in, you know, in Warzone you have gas, in PUBG you have the blue zone coming in Fortnite you have the storm coming in Hyperscape parts of the map actually just slowly get deleted and you just can't go past it. If you're in there, you get deleted as well, which is pretty cool. The effects of it happening is actually really cool too. It's like, it almost looks like the details of the map is getting deleted little by little, and then eventually, you know, it's just gone. I think that's a really cool feature they came up with for Hyperscape. Thank you so much everyone for watching, listening, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was okay. Let me know what I can do better next time if we do this again. And if you haven't already, please do like, subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't already followed me on Twitch, Twitter, Insta, please do. Everything is just Keister. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!